My career sucks.
Sex just isn't the same.
What's my purpose?
Where did this fat come from?
My relationship is killing me.
I'll never be happy.
My debt is piling up. I'll never find love. Why can't I be like other gay guys? Hey guys, it's time to get a grip, stop whining, make a bold move, and do something amazing with your 40-plus gay life. Let's get to the show with your Tell It Like It Is host, Rick Clemons, who does his best to never act like a dick or a diva unless you act like one first.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of 40-plus Gay Men Gay Talk. And just a quick reminder, if you're wanting to be part of our community, hop on over to Facebook. You can find us over there, 40-plus Gay Men Gay Talk community. And if you want to join us for our Monday conversations that we do once a month, happens the third Monday of the month, make sure you're joining us there because I want you to join in on all the fun. In fact, sometimes the fun means you might find yourself in a lovely throuple. Oh, yes, that polyamorous relationship, maybe bringing a third into your world, whatever that looks like. But what happens when it goes awry? Well, that's what we're going to be focusing on. And I don't want debates here about, is it right? Is it wrong? Hey, do what you want to do. But I love that our guest is bringing to us his personal version of this, which also is coming from a book that's recently coming out. And I just want to make sure you really get a feel for what is it like when we bring that polyamory perspective into our relationships. His name is Jeff Hudson. He is actually an Emmy-nominated television producer. He's done a lot of shows. He's been on some things like MTV, HGTV, The Doctors in 2010, all sorts of stuff. But then in his own personal world, he discovered the good, the bad, the ugly of a non-monogamous relationship. And he's decided to share it in his brand new book, Deconstructing Us, My Trouble with a Throuple, which I just love. I love the title already. So guys, let's dive in. Let's have some fun. Keep an open mind. And Jeff, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm so glad we're getting to have this conversation.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate you having me on. Great intro there. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. So this is an interesting topic. It's a lot of things that come up. I'm in a lot of online groups. And boy, when this comes up, you either get like, just leave everybody alone, let them do their own thing. And then you got a lot of people who are opinionated about it. Should never be. It should be monogamous. And I always say, until you've been in it, you don't know how you're going to explore. But you've been in it, man. So
Exactly. Rick, I have to tell you, I was in a 22-year relationship, right?
Yep.
And I truly believed that I was in the relationship that could do a throuple. Even my friend said it. If anybody could do this, you guys are going to be able to do this. We were strong. Literally, my partner and I, we were growing stronger and stronger every year. We still had sex right up until the end. Literally, right up until the last day we were together, we had sex probably an hour before we broke up. Like, my relationship was strong. And I truly, truly, truly believed that I was going to be able to handle this. And I went into it thinking that, this guy was younger. He was 20 years younger than me. I'm 51. He was, at the time when I met him, 29. He was about to turn 30. My partner was 6 years older than me, so they were 26 years apart. And I always had it in my mind that, okay, here's a guy. We're gonna bring him in, and maybe it'll last for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And when he meets his person, my partner and I will let him soar. That was always my thought process behind it. And I just thought it was going to be, a year, 2 year, 3 year thing. And my partner and I would move on from that.
Right.
It didn't quite work out that way.
Well, there's so many interesting layers to all of this. Most people that usually throw a whole like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing it. They're only thinking about it in the sexual realm.
Right.
But it's such a nuanced layering. There's the sexual realm, there's the intimacy, there's the doing life together piece. There's
100%.
There's multiple things. Like if you're moving in, like, okay, we just went from needing a 2-car garage to maybe a 3-car garage. Like, how do we balance out? What if 2 of us like to go do these things, but the other one doesn't like to do these things? I mean, there is no easy thing about being in a polyamorous sort of situation.
No,
so what was the let's start with the excitement part for all three of you.
You
What
bring
was
up a
the
really good point about that, and I think that a lot of people confuse a throuple with just being open, and there's a huge
Yeah.
difference. You know,
Yep.
like my partner and I were open for many years, and open for us was we'd have sex with other people, and you know that person got into an Uber and left after the sex, and they went home. When you deal with a throuple, you're opening up the gates of emotions, you're opening up the gates of like co-equality into the relationship. And what's surprising is you go from a two-person relationship to not even a three-person relationship. There's four relationships actually occurring. There's the relationship between me and my partner. There's the relationship between me and the new guy. There's a relationship between the new guy and my partner. And then there's the relationship between all four of us happening at once, right? So the excitement for us, my partner and I, when we were open, we never really hooked up together with the third person because I was very much into rugged guys. He was into twinks. So we never really agreed on that third person. So we did our separate things. This guy came along. We were in Mexico for a vacation, and I hooked up with him on Grinder first. And he was totally my type. He was rugged, he was, you know, built, and but he had a very soft and pretty way about him.
Mm.
Something very nice about him. And I knew my partner was going to like him. So I introduced the two of them while we were in Mexico. We ended up spending the whole week together. And then it became an instant sort of explosion. The guy was in Canada. He lived in Canada. We lived in Southern California. And he was coming down every weekend. The weekends turned into long weekends. The weekends turned into weeks. And what you were saying earlier is what started to scare me with the red flags. Like we started talking about him moving in, and I started to think about how am I going to share my person of
Hmm.
22 years,
Yep.
just automatically give him full access to a new person.
Hmm.
It and it started to concern me because it takes 22 years to
Build
cultivate
that.
a
Yep.
relationship. And just granting just this newbie full access to that started to kind of freak me out.
Hmm. And this is one of the things that happens for many people. It's one thing to like, hey, let's have a play date with a third. Okay. That's one thing. And then to like, okay, well, let's go out and have dinner with them. Okay, that's no big deal. But then as you start to move, it's like I love how you said, how do I share what I've shared for all these years? Because we know the nuances of our partners. We know
Right.
the way we like to do mornings. I
Yeah.
know I don't talk to my husband in the morning first thing really, other than good morning, because if he hasn't had his coffee, he just wants to be coffee, doing the news, whatever. And I'm kind of like, get up, let's get done. I'm always the one who does as soon as I wake up, off to the gym or get on my Peloton, do my Peloton workouts, whatever it is. So now you got that third person, like now I got to figure out how does all that occur? And then, well, who sleeps with who, when, and do you try to do, we've tried the three in a bed and that just there's no sleep. Not because we're having crazy sex all night long, but
I totally get that. With us, it was three in a bed plus three golden retrievers.
oh geez.
Yeah, and this is where I started to get the red flags because I actually started retreating to the guest bedroom just because there was no space.
Yeah.
And I started to notice that nobody cared that I was retreating to the other bedroom, you know?
Mm.
And that's when I started to say, okay, maybe there's not a throuple forming here. Maybe there's something forming between the two of them that I'm not quite aware of. But my inner gut instinct started to know that it didn't feel right to me after a
Hmm.
while.
And those are the things we have. Those are the things we need to pay attention to. It's like be real, And I've been in those situations, and I tend to have a jealousy streak, so I'm very cognizant of that, and so I have to like manage that. But I also have learned as I've been in my open relationship to become more and more. Here's the boundary. Here's what I expect. Here's what I like. And if that boundary can't be worked on, then we have to work on that.
Right.
But too many people think, oh, these people are just doing it for sex. They're just, it's always just a mad, crazy, walk around naked in the house sort of thing. No, there's all sorts of things. Like some of the, like one of the simplest things, which we've already kind of alluded to, but like, what if you all are in a routine that, hey, we always eat dinner around this time, and then this other person's like, oh, I don't like to eat dinner till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Well, we're going to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Well, I'm going to stay. So there's all of this, like it's kind of like redating again. You're like, okay, now
100%.
It's like bringing it all back into play again. And for some people who attempt this, it's too complicated even at the beginning. And then because they haven't talked about this with their partner that they've been in the longer relationship with, things can explode right out the gate.
Exactly.
Sounds like yours didn't explode right out the gate. It was a building towards okay, this just isn't going to work.
Well, it was a fast building. The throuple didn't last too long. But you brought up a really good point, and you said the word jealousy. When I was open with my partner, we were open probably a good 15 out of the 22 years. I was never, ever, ever jealous of anything that he did, and vice versa. And it actually excited me. Like if I knew he went out and he went on a trip and, he hooked the guy, I wanted to hear about it. Like it actually helps. It helped my relationship as well. Like I learned things about him that he liked to do sexually from his extracurricular activities, but I was never a jealous person. So when I went into this throuple, I truly said to this third guy, I was like, I'm not a jealous person, so I'm all good. But I have to tell you, I started to become jealous because the emotions were now involved. There were emotions involved. It wasn't just sex. I would be in one room and they'd be cooking dinner, and I could see how they were, interacting with each other. I could see them. I could wake up in the morning from the adjacent room that I was sleeping in by myself and walk over to the other bedroom, and I could see the way this third guy, his name is Lucas in the book, was wrapped around my partner. And that started to make me feel jealous for the first time in my life. I never was a jealous person, but I admit I became jealous.
And that's a beautiful awareness. This is so that now this, and for many of you listening, you may go, oh, but I don't know that I'm not that way. You don't know what you're not that way until you're put into something like this. And some of you never will. Some of you would never feel jealous. That's another way of being in it. Like you're quote self-aware enough in everything that you're like, you never will experience. But I can almost promise any of you who are like, I'm thinking about going down this route and everything, you will actually be surprised at the emotions that show up when you least expect it. And it can be like just the little glance, it can be the little things. And I've been through this a couple of different times. Not that we brought a third in. I mean, not like a permanent third, but we've had some friendships, and they've been friendships and, play date sort of things. And there's bonds that get created on both directions. There are times that the guy's more bonded to me than they are to my husband. And then, and so you have to really navigate that and be able to talk about it. And, so some people listen, then why do you do this? If you know this is what's going to happen, why do you do it? Because I want to be a person who is able to explore my life. And when it doesn't feel right to explore anymore, then I'm going to say so. And I can be honest, that's kind of where I am in my life right now. Every once in a while, still a play date, but I'm not near as much on the hunt of let's get somebody. I want to keep it open. So what was the moment when you knew, okay, this is going to change everything? And I'm sure it wasn't just one moment, Jeff.
Change everything in a good way or when it turns south?
Well, either one. Let's go with the good way, because like you, I realized, and those who've listened to the podcast know that through my whole married life with my ex-wife, there was no, I was never monogamous, but I was trying to figure myself out It's not excuse, not excuse, just saying that's what it was. Then when I got into my relationship, that pattern was still there. And I'm very much a sexual person. Again, not making it as an excuse, guys. I'm just saying, speaking my truth right now. And it wasn't long into our relationship where I started messing around again and finally got caught. We had some conversations. Then we invited some people into it, moved on, all that sort of stuff. And then we decided we're going to be open. And we've really practiced openness together more than apart, except when we travel. And I realized this is actually enhancing. I mean, one of the things that we will both say is it's actually, like you said, it's a huge turn on to hear, what's happened with my husband with a guy if I've been out of town, but it's actually a huge turn on for both of us if we have a third to watch the other with the other. It's like it's my favorite, and I don't even have to get off. I mean, I can
I totally get you. I am with you 100%.
Yeah.
I will say it with the good part, Rick, in all of my life, I have never truly been swept by a human being like Lucas Walker swept me. And he swept me fast. Even with my partner of 22 years, I wasn't ever quite swept that quickly. I have never been so over the moon, falling fast over anybody besides for this human being. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was my age or if I just truly had an amazing connection. I do believe it actually was an amazing connection because I think it ultimately happened with my partner as well. And, they are now together, right? So I think that he experienced probably the same thing that I experienced. It turned dark and south for me pretty early on, actually. Just a lot of red flags. I started seeing things that made me uncomfortable. The third, Lucas started saying things and doing things in front of me that he would never say in front of my partner. And I kept saying it to my partner. And at a good, I would say midway through it, I actually knew that this wasn't going to work, but I also knew that my partner had fallen in love with him. So I was running the risk of losing my partner and having my partner walk off with this guy if I really caused, a scene. So I was trying my best to keep going with this.
Yep.
And we had one sort of fundamental commandment at the beginning of this throuple because none of us had ever done this before. And that one commandment was if any one of us really truly felt left out or we felt, uncomfortable about something that was going on, we have to voice our concern and we need to rectify it as a group. I was the only one that ever followed that commandment. And I started to bring up my concerns. And at one point, I brought up a concern with the two of them, and it didn't go over well. And basically, it turned into a massive blowout between me and the third guy. And that's where it all started to just unravel at that point. The week after, my partner and I were getting into fights over it to the point where, like, my partner was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be happy. And I said to him, you're living in La La Land. And my partner said to me, I want to live in La La Land. And I knew at that moment my relationship was over.
Well, but I also think there's something, okay, that's a tough one, no doubt. I don't want to diminish that. That's a really tough thing when you hit that moment. But I also think there's beauty in if that moment is what's going to happen, then I do need to exit stage right because I'm not going to be able to bring him back.
Yeah.
And why would I put my effort into it? It's kind of like when I coach people coming out of the closet who are in heterosexual relationships. 90 to 95% of the time, they'll say, well, my wife wants to see how we can make it work. I'm like, okay, go for it. It rarely does, because no matter what, the guy has already checked out.
Yeah.
He knows he wants to be with a man.
Yeah.
And it isn't, even if his wife were to grow a penis, it would make a difference. There's just this energy. Those of us who know, guys, you're listening, there's this energy about being with a man that is completely different. Those of you who've been in relationships with women than being with a woman.
Yep.
I love women. I don't hate women, but I just know, it would be a rare occasion that a woman would make me turn my eye and go, oh, maybe. Just isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the beauty of, yes, it's the hardest thing. And I've been right to the precipice a couple of times in my own world since I came out and been in the relationship with my husband, that the hardest words I'm like is like, if you want to be with that person, I want you to be with that person.
Yeah.
But just be honest about it.
Yeah.
And it's never gone there. And every time I say it, I'm like, is this going to be the time that he finally says that? Okay. He's going to hurt. We're 20 going on 24 years together. It could hurt. But I also know that I hurt for 13 years in my past relationship. I don't want to hurt, nor do I want whoever I'm with to feel hurt or like they're not living their best life.
I agree. And I got to that point. And I will say also that one of the biggest things I learned from this experience, and it's a little bit cliche, but I truly think that the universe brought Lucas Walker into my life uh, for a very specific reason. Two very specific reasons. This guy was a lost soul in the middle of nowhere, Canada. And I was in a 22-year relationship that I truly believed was perfect. And I let this guy in. And I think that I was meant to connect the two of them.
Mm.
And Lucas Walker was my gateway out of what I was in.
Mm. Wow.
It took me a long time to get to that point. And I'm still not 100% sure I'm at that point, but I'm very close to being at that point of belief.
Well, but you have to evolve into that. I mean, my God, Jeff, this is going to sound really crass to somebody who's like, God, Rick's got some big opinions on this. But if you were just to like close the door and go, cool, okay, done. I guess some people could do that, but man, I don't care if it's 1 year or 20 years, there's an investment of time here.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised that you're like, oh, I don't think I'm quite there yet. I was probably, I don't know, 10 years into my relationship with my husband. And when my ex-wife was pulling stuff, I'm like, okay, well, and finally it got to the point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to lose my relationship if I keep trying to take care of her and take care of us. And, so you learn that, yes, it's painful, guys. I think that's the thing that Jeff and I are both bringing up. There's nothing easy about this. But Jeff, what I'd love that you just shared with, this was the gateway out. And sometimes we don't want to see that as, oh, that's the thing. That's what it is. Because then it's like, oh, what a son of a bitch I might be if this is my gateway out. But the gateway out is there for a purpose.
Yeah. It's the universe. I truly believe it's the universe protecting you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't see it. I spent my whole relationship on Facebook with him, making this picture perfect relationship that I thought I was in. And for the most part, it was pretty picture perfect. It was a good relationship. Like I said, it was strong. But at the same time, I probably elevated it to a point that it really wasn't. And I have since deleted my Facebook account because I had to get rid of that whole life and let it go, and erase it. But I do not regret a minute of any time that I spent with him. I will always be in love with the man that I loved in that relationship, but I don't love him anymore. And most people think that most people think that being in love with somebody is stronger than loving somebody, and I actually think the direct opposite. I think that you could always be in love with somebody, which I will always be in love with my ex, but I think loving somebody is a daily thing. It's about commitment and it's about
Yep.
trust and it's about working together. And it's that process of continuous motion. And
Hmm.
I don't love him anymore. I'll always be in love with him, but I just
Yep.
don't love
Yep. I agree 100%. And actually the first guy that brought me out of the closet, I went through that for a while where I was still in love with him, and I questioned, could it ever come back? And this of course as soon as I came out. So, the typical, oh, the first guy comes along, here it is, Prince Charming, yay, we're off to the races.
him. Yeah,
And I really appreciate, I appreciate, in my book I talk about how much I appreciate him being part of this whole journey. And I talk about others that I didn't appreciate. But anyway, that's a whole nother that's a whole nother podcast. To the point that one of them called me out on Amazon, like, oh, I'm the one in the book, and da 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 da. And Rick sure enjoyed being. I'm like, you just like theater party of one. You just let the whole world know. Anyway, got off topic there, but I can honestly say the guy that brought me out of the closet, there was a long time I was in love with him, but I didn't love him. And then
right.
it diminished. And then I met him about 8 years later, and we had dinner, and it was really solidified there. Like I wasn't even in love with him anymore
Yeah,
because I just saw something. I'm like, and he's the significant one that stuck out. The other guys along the way till I met my husband, I couldn't even say I was in love with him. I mean, I was in love with the thought of us, but the rest of it wasn't there. I can honestly say if something happened to me in my relationship with my current husband, I would probably be in the same space as you. It would be a really hard time of saying I'm not. I still love him and I'm still in love with him. That would take me some time to like move through that.
sure.
I will always be in love with him because he's been such a significant part of my life, of my children's life, of my parents' life. But in a very loving way. And anybody who's listened to this podcast for a long time has heard me say this before. I would relish the time of being alone only because I've never been alone, except for a
Same
brief moment of time. When I came out of college, I met my ex-wife within a year of graduating. We were married the next year. We got divorced. I was only single for a couple of years in that realm, but I was always with guys. Finally, when I wasn't trying to be with guys is when my wonderful husband showed up. And I think that's why it's worked,
Yeah.
because I wasn't looking. We also tend to keep doing these really powerful ways, sometimes not powerful. There's times we're like, okay, we got to talk. But I think that's the glue that's holding us together, is when we get to that point, we're like, okay, we got to have some communication. Otherwise, he says it more than I do. He goes, I'm not going anywhere. I am not going anywhere. I do believe at our stage in life, we both know we're neither one going anywhere.
I love what you just said because what you're talking about is what I consider loving resiliently. And what I mean by that, and I talk about it in the book, is that no matter what happens between me and my partner, and it doesn't matter who I'm with. Like right now, I have a new partner of a year and a half. I'm like you, I'm a quick mover. I've rarely been alone. But I truly believe in no matter what happens, you figure out a way to work through it. You become each other's person. You become committed to working through anything. And unless it's just some catastrophic thing that you just can't, and that's why I truly believed with my ex that we were unbreakable. And that is who I am. And that's who I will always be. And I found out that he wasn't, and that was a hard thing for me. But better now at the age of 51 than when I'm 75.
Yes, but here's a beautiful thing. To discover that your relationship is breakable means there's opportunity to fix it.
I love that. I love
Because
that.
if we live in the world of it's unbreakable, we're perfect and da 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 da, again, I'm going to give credit to those who can actually see it. But man, I without the flaws in the relationship can't thrive. Is the way I look at it.
That is perfectly said, Rick.
Because too often we get in the Cinderella story or the Prince Charming story or whatever. Since we're gay, I guess we call it the Prince Charming story. And then, maybe it's because I just recently did a very beautiful experience with 20 gay men where we really connected. I did a erotic retreat with a good friend of mine, Court Vox,
Nice.
and there were a couple of couples. The interesting piece was then there were those of us here that were in couples. My husband was actually supposed to be there, and the guys already know the story, but this is a little bit twist on it. That I'm actually very grateful. Not grateful my husband got sick. I'm not grateful for that at all. That this gave us the time to like go be apart.
Yeah.
He gets to go experience it the next time it happens because our connection, our intimacy, our sex has been so much different than what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it would have been if we would have been there like, okay, we're here together. And I saw this in a really beautiful way with some of the couples that were there. They did everything together. And then finally, when one of the couples kind of started venturing away, like, no, let's do this exercise separate, you could almost just see the beauty of their relationship lighting up right then and there.
I love that. That's amazing.
And sometimes we don't give ourselves this appreciation. I remember the first time that I said to my husband, I'd really like to have a play date with this guy solo. And I was petrified, absolutely petrified. And this happened to be somebody he never did meet because the guy wasn't interested. And that's a tough one.
Yeah.
We are two different people. That's a really tough one. So those of you who are going to, think about the Throuples or the opening, you're going to have some challenges because my husband and I are two different people completely. I'm a tall, bigger bear type, and he's a more slender, Hispanic. And to find a person who really is into both of us is tough. And kind of like what you said, this guy swept me. He swept me.
Wow.
Swept me in a really weird way that I was like, oh, I'm totally in schoolgirl world here right now.
I actually wrote that exact word in my book. I was a lovesick schoolgirl.
Yeah.
Did it.
And it was crazy the things that I thought about, even though I had no intention of wanting to leave my husband. And then I thought, wait, there's some flaws here. And the more I would see the flaw, I would almost like, but that's okay. I can deal with that. And then the flaw would show up again. I'm like, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Luckily, it got to a point where we both knew we were probably going somewhere that we neither one really wanted it to go. And he walked away. I never heard from him again. So that was kind of like, really, man up, have the decency to say something, But I think these are those interesting moments where you may be yearning for something. So have that conversation with your partner. Be honest about it.
Yep.
And because it can be scary. I'm never going to say it's not scary. The minute I said to my husband, not in the last few years, like, I have no interest in fucking a guy. My fucking like pounding an ass every once in a while. But I'm like, I can't deal with these guys who just fuck me, daddy. Just fuck me. I'm like, can we do something more than just you lay back and I pound your ass? Because that's not what I'm into these days. And it was really hard to have that conversation, not because my husband's a total bottom, but like we started having these conversations like, yeah, we're neither one really into that. With the right guy, it works. But man, we go through so much as humans, and then as gay men to go, yeah, I'm not really into topping anymore. Oh, okay, well, I'm not interested. That's fine. Now, if you want to lay in bed with me naked and we kind of play around and we touch and we feel and we do whatever, and if it leads to that, I'm fine. But don't come marching in my door saying, just fuck me.
Yeah.
because you might as well just turn right back around and go out because it ain't going to happen. But
It's
I think
it's good to know what you want.
it is. And even
Yeah.
in these things like your trouble in your throuple, you learn to know what you wanted.
Yeah. I also
And it
learned
helps that you had 20 some years of also learning to know what you want.
exactly. And I also learned that I want things that I didn't know I wanted. Since
Mm-hmm.
split, this new guy that I'm with, I've been with him for a year and a half. He has brought my sex life to an entirely new level that I never knew actually existed in my bloodstream.
Mm.
I have done things and that I never in a million years thought I would ever do, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy that I've gotten the experience to do it. I actually like look back at my old sex life and think to myself, "Wow, how mundane it was."
Mm-hmm.
And what I've experienced in this past year and a half has been so enlightening and amazing. And just another reason why I think that I am where I am, the universe bringing me to this spot because I am supposed to be here at this moment.
That's such a beautiful testimony to learning to know yourself.
Yeah.
And it's going to change. I mean, it's going to change. I mean, I've talked about this. I am so much more of a quote, my friend Dr. Joe Court, sexologist that a lot of people know. He kind of is the one who coined the term side. I'm like, I'm a total, I wouldn't say a total side, but I'm much more of a side. Give me a nice cock in my hands, a little booty to play with and finger. Let me have the nice chest. Lush over all of that. I don't really have to be penetrated, nor do I have to penetrate. When it happens, cool, you
Yeah.
know. But I'm like, and I'm like, I own that. I was a little nervous to own that, and now here I am talking about it. So I just wiped out a whole crew of guys who are like, no, I'll never do anything with you. And I'm like, totally cool. I'm totally cool. But what a beautiful thing. There's no angst. There's no anxiousness. In fact, when we do chat with guys, one of our no gamers, like if you're not interested in kissing, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Because for both of us, that's a huge turn on. And
Yeah.
I totally respect that. Kind of respect that. I mean, usually it's the down low guys or the guys who haven't really come to terms with themselves. Like, nah, no kissing, because if I kiss you, then that makes me gay. Okay, well, go see a therapist about that. Okay. But anyway, well, I love this. Jeff, I'm so excited about the book coming out. I love that
Thank
you're
you.
willing to have, like, not only share it here, but you're willing to put it out there because, guys, here's the thing. If one guy's feeling this way, there's another 10, 100 that feel the same way. And
Yep.
when somebody like Jeff brings his world into your world, if you're toying with it, you're thinking it, maybe you're in a throuple that's not working. Well, here's something that you might read. I'm sure there's humor in it, there's angst in it, there's learnings in it, and this is how we learn and grow to be the guys that we are. And I think, Jeff, it actually gets harder as you get older, quite honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is who I am, even though I'm changing. We've had a lot of life experience.
We sure
And
have.
so then when you've had that life experience, you're like, this is what I fought for so long. And now this thing just happened.
Yeah.
Now what? But the beautiful life experience helps us step into the now what that
Yeah.
is our new normal. So if somebody wants to get the book, I'm assuming it's going to be wherever you can buy books anywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. You could also check on my Instagram.
Nice.
There's a link on there. But just Google it and it'll come up.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited for you. One of the things I like to do is give away a book when somebody that I feel really like connected to as an author. And so the guys know, and guys, let's play by the rules. If you've already asked for a book, you don't get another one. That's the rules. But if anybody would like Jeff's book, let me know. Send me an email to rick@rickclemons.com. Let me know you want it. Then we'll make it happen. I'll buy it and send it to you. And that's my way to just say, Jeff, I really appreciate you supporting me, supporting my podcast, and putting yourself out there in the world.
And
So,
thank you so much for this, Rick. It's been a great
of course.
conversation.
Yeah. If I ever get down to your world, I think I'm going to have to hook up with you. Not literally, but like hook up and like, hey,
Hey, we don't have to discount that.
Yeah, exactly. But if we still lived in Southern California, I'm like, hey, we're coming to, your world in a few weeks. Let's go. But I'm a little further away now. But we do make it down there every so often.
I like the way your brain works, so I definitely would love to meet you in person.
You too, man. All right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Thank you, Jeff. And guys, we'll be back in just another week with another episode. And stay tuned. There's a whole lineup of Pride stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Because we're already in May. And so starting the end of this month, we do the Pride lineup. Lots of interesting conversations. And again, don't ever stop stepping out, stepping up, and stepping into living your 40+ life on your terms with no fears, no excuses, and no apologies. Thanks for being listeners, and we'll catch you in just another week, guys. Take care.
That's a wrap for 40+. Gay men, gay talk, where size doesn't matter. We drop our bullshit, get over our screwed up fears, make bold moves, and live life without apologies. Don't forget to join us on Facebook at 40+, Gay Men, Gay Talk, where the conversations continue.